going to talk about finding free money in your business for marketing or finding budget in your client's business for marketing. We're going to talk about Robyn here, how she saved one e-commerce company 30% on shipping and 30% on credit card fees. Think about how much money that is for some of you. We're going to talk about why so many businesses don't get the big discounts, the massive problem with consultants that just do cost studies, the zero risk way of reducing costs in your business and finding that money. We're going to talk about the most common questions in evaluating your business, how to manage futuristic thinking in your costs, the one thing that you can do quickly to evaluate to find money, the amazing worst case scenario of talking to Robyn. Robyn, say hi.
Hi.
And we're talking about the simple way to get started finding money for free for you or for your clients, or if you want to help your clients find money. Really simple. We're going to get into all of it on the Scarlet Marketing Show. But one of the best ways to spend your money is to collect customer stories. Spend your money and time, because not only will it help you get more clients, it'll help you get bigger clients, it'll help you improve your business and make happier clients. You want to find those video case stories, go to videocasestory.com/finder, and we'll help you find those $1 million case stories. All right, let's get started.
My name is Gino Wickman. I was introduced to Ian, and that's what brought me into this video world and got me embracing this video world. And Ian did exactly what I hoped. He got me really comfortable with putting videos out to the world and having a great strategy around putting videos out to the world, because there's so much more than just shooting a video. And so the way that he positions those videos, optimizes those videos, he's done a great job.
Tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, so I'm associated with Schooley Mitchell, and we do cost reduction work. So we go into organization, review 15 or 16 different areas in their indirect expenses, and then leverage our negotiating power and knowledge of these markets to get an average savings of about 26 to 28%.
Wow. That must be, I mean, for a big business, that's huge numbers. For even a small business, that seems like a lot. Can you give me an example of like a small, medium-sized business you've worked with that how much money you saved them?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I don't necessarily remember dollar figures. I get excited about percentages because that's kind of what we base on. But I was working with a small e-commerce company. Unfortunately, father had passed away. Sons had inherited it. Kind of getting scrappy, trying to figure out how to keep this business afloat. And we were able to save them. They had been with a particular shipping vendor, I won't say, for years. And we were able to save them 30% on their shipping. And then on their credit card processing, the owner told me, I don't think you're going to find anything. My sales rep tells me that, we're getting the best price he can offer. We came back with 35% savings on that.
Wow. I mean, if that's a decent sized company. That's your two biggest expenses, probably besides product, is shipping and credit card transactions.
Absolutely. I'm working with a prospect right now whose main business is in shipping, and their shipping costs are in the multi-millions.
Yeah. So 30% adds up pretty quickly. That's more than my salary. When you go into doing something like this, it's such a great untrap money to reinvest into the business. You can take some out, obviously, but reinvest in the business. Why isn't everyone doing this?
I would say there's two big reasons. I would say one of the reasons I run into is that sometimes people get their little egos become fragile, and they say, oh, geez, if she comes in and saves money, how's that going to make me look? So their ego kind of gets the bet. We got it. We got this. We can do this ourselves. What I want to say is if you could do it yourself, you already would have. The fact that you haven't says you can't. You don't have the time. You don't have the volume. You don't have the expertise. The other thing I run into, quite honestly, and I try to combat this, it's hard, is people who maybe came from more corporate environments at some point in their career probably experienced what I did, which was large consulting companies coming in and doing quote unquote cost studies which quite honestly ended up being very expensive and an incredible waste of time. I had the same experience. I work in some Fortune 500 companies that we couldn't wait to bring in some big consulting companies to tell us what to do. That never amounted to any savings. It was nothing we couldn't have, we could have laid people off on our own. We didn't need another company to tell us that. And those companies don't actually do any of the implementation. They just hand you a 3-ring binder that you put on your shelf with the other 3-ring binders, and then that's the end of it. So I think people's bad experiences, they go, oh, we tried that, it didn't work.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you too. It does seem too good to be true when I talk to you.
Yeah. No, actually, I was talking to a prospect yesterday, and she kept looking at me funny. And finally she said, what's the catch? This sounds too good to be true. And I was like, no, I get that a lot. Absolutely. Like, yep, it is too good to be true. But, here's the thing. It doesn't cost you anything up front. So why not try it and see what happens? There's literally no risk to at least engaging with us and seeing what we can do for you.
That's absolutely amazing. And in general, which types of businesses have you found this most successful for?
Oh, you know what? That's hard to say. And part of the reason is it depends on so many factors. Obviously the size of the organization, the industry they're in, so what kind of indirect expenses they'll have. But part of it also is, what is their vendor history? There may be 2 companies, similar size, similar industry, but one has used the same sales rep. I've had people tell me this. I've had the same sales rep for this vendor for 10 years. That is going to be a different situation than maybe a business who just changed hands and they got a new vendor a couple of years ago. You might have differences in pricing. So it's really kind of all over the board. Obviously, we have more success in organizations where we can touch multiple categories. So, like the company I mentioned that has a lot of shipping, we're going to look at their telecom. They're doing a lot of credit card processing, obviously a ton of shipping, which means they're using a ton of boxes and packaging supplies. They're trucking some stuff themselves, so they've got fuel costs in other areas. So we're going to look at a lot of different categories for them.
What are, you mentioned a few of them, but let's say a service business, let's say a law firm or digital agency, who I talk to all the time, or even a consulting firm. Where are the most common places that they can find and save money?
I would say those are, again, the credit card processing, telecom, which includes, your normal phone system, your internet, wireless devices and tablets, sometimes SaaS licenses. There are also still some professional services that have to overnight documents out versus doing e-signature, and so we can help with that as well. That's usually the places we find it.
Gotcha. And so when you do this, how long does this process take?
Honestly, it can vary as well. The part I've worked on a lot over the past year is trying to get the upfront stuff that I can control as fast and as easy for the business as possible. Everyone is busy. So the biggest investment that any client is going to have is their time. And so we've tried to limit it down to how little time can we ask of them in order to make this still effective. So I would say we've got that down at C-level. You're maybe talking hour to 2 hours at the very most. And usually it's, CEO, CFO signs the service agreement. And then I say, great, I don't need you for a while. Point me in the direction of your accounts payable people. And that's where we start getting into invoices and contracts. But we try to make that easy as well. If someone is willing, and honestly, a lot of organizations are willing to give us their login for the portal. So if they're using a vendor portal to pay, we'll say, just give us that logon. We'll log into the portal. We'll pull the invoices. We'll get the contract. And there's a ton of information out there on these portals that we can grab that will help us in our analysis.
That's fantastic. That seems, once again, too good to be true.
Yep. So then we package that up. We get some questions answered, and a lot of the questions are in 2 areas. how do you like that service now? What's working, what isn't working? But then also, where are you going? So I was talking to a prospect yesterday, and he's like, yeah, I can give you information about where we are today. But my bigger concern is we're about to open 2 more warehouses in 2 different states, and we're going to need XYZ. And I was like, we got you. We'll analyze this, and then we'll help you get started in the other locations. So there's a lot of also futuristic thinking, that, we ask questions about what's going to happen in the future. Once it gets to our analysts in Toronto, you're probably talking 6 to 8 weeks if everything is pretty straightforward. If there's some complexities into it, it may be a little bit longer. But that's the point then where we bring back what we call the value report, which is, here's what you have now, here's what you're paying, here's some options for optimizing and saving money. And then the client makes the go, no-go decision. We talk through what's good and bad, trying to make sure that the vendors we bring meet all of their requirements. They may have certain requirements that are a little quirky. Sometimes, honestly, they'll say, don't even bother going to my incumbent. I don't trust them anymore. Their service is horrible. Don't bother. Find me somebody new. And so we try to do that.
That's fantastic. I mean, so yeah, it's much more than just cost cutting.
Oh, absolutely. There's an optimization part to it as well. When you look at things like recent client, we're working with them on, we've got them some savings, but what we really need to do now is they've got like 12 locations. We need to go back because each one of those locations is using a different level of service. And this is for internet and telephone services. Some of them are paying for top of the line business plans, and they have 3 people in the office. They don't need that. So we're trying to go back and standardize what package should they really be using, because they're paying for a lot of features that they don't need. And so that's part of the optimization. Cost efficiency is, what are you paying for that you just don't use?
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm embarrassed to think about how much stuff I'm paying for that I don't use.
Well, think of us as people. My brother hopefully won't see this podcast, but he's infamous for having multiple TV services. And I was like, how many hours in a day can you be watching TV that you have Hulu and this and that and, Peacock? And yeah, there's no way.
Yeah. My boss won't listen to this, and we have all of them, but she definitely uses all of them. But what's the smallest business that this can work for?
I can tell you, I've helped people in my personal life that have businesses at about $1 million. It obviously, the bigger they are, the more leverage we have. I like to think 3 to 5 million minimum probably gets us in some pretty good range. But that again depends, because you could have an e-commerce company selling T-shirts online. I've had a prospect with that.
Yeah.
Very low expenses in terms of people, all shipping, all credit card. So there's a space where we might be able to help them because they have just a different composition of expenses.
Yeah. No, I mean, this is it's interesting because we don't think about this stuff that much, right? It's like, how do we make more money instead of how do we keep more of it? And it seems like so much work, but obviously 1 or 2 hours a day, or 1 or 2 hours with you to save all of that money is pretty amazing, and then be able to take and spend it in marketing and make more money.
Yeah.
What's the craziest thing that, like, craziest amounts or craziest cost cutting or craziest thing that's happened? Because I'm sure you've seen some stuff. Like when you get in there, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe you're spending money on this.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. It's honestly, I try not to be too cynical a person, but I'm going back to that e-commerce company. Anytime someone says to me, oh, you're getting the best deal I can give, like my antenna go up. Like, I just don't believe it. But I hear that from multiple people, like, oh, my sales guy's really good to me. I'm sure I'm getting great prices. Or my banker told me this was a good company, so I'm sure I'm getting great rates. I'm not saying they're lying, but I don't trust comments like that.
Yeah, no, I mean, and it might not even be that person. It might just be that their company is not giving them all the information too,
Exactly.
right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, and even I was going to go back to the size of the company. Even companies that are very small, I've multiple times given presentations about how even solopreneurs should start thinking about their business in terms of expenses. Something as easy as pull your invoices, say for the past 12 months, let's say on your if you're using a cell phone, the bill should pretty much be the same every month. Well, look at that, put it into Excel, sort it, look at it and go, oh, wait, why is that one month like double? Then go in and check that 1 month. So it doesn't take a lot of effort to kind of start getting into the routine. Maybe it's every 3 months, every 6 months. Go into QuickBooks, pull out an accounts payable report, sort it, and just start looking at it to get familiar with what you're spending and look for outliers. And then if you have an outlier, then you can focus on that and call the vendor and see what happened. So it's almost more of, to your point earlier, it's more of a mindset.
Yeah, no, it's installing it in there,
Yeah.
or hiring someone like yourself. Um, if you're a larger business, what's a quick way to go? I mean, that seemed like one way, but to go, hey, I really should be talking to Robyn. Is there an evaluation that they can do, or like a barometer, or a question that they should be asking?
Honestly, no, because I think every business could use our services in one way or another. Because even if we go through the analysis and we come back and we say, Ian, your expenses they're really good. They're market rates. You're doing great. Isn't that comfort and reassurance that, all right, we're on the right path here. This is working. I'll be honest with you, that never happens. But if it if that is the worst case scenario, is that you get validation that you're on the right track, that's not a bad thing.
No, I mean, that's an amazing worst case scenario,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Is we can't save you money and it costs you nothing.
Exactly. Yeah. And we have verified that you are paying market rates for everything.
Yeah, and you're not using anything that you shouldn't be using, or
Yeah.
you're paying for stuff that you're not using at all. And once again, then you can take and buy some video case stories.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, it happens more than people think. I mean, when we present the value report and we're like, okay, here's all the vendors that you're using in this category, there's like this hard pause and there's like, wait, what? I thought we weren't, and they'll turn and look at each other. I thought we got rid of these. Why are we paying for the, just it's a little bit surprising. Yes and no, not surprising. But there's kind of a general lack in some companies of even understanding their vendors. I mean, I worked in a company of pretty good size. We had 3 different departments had their own individual licenses to a particular software. We could have had 1 license, not 4, but because we didn't cross-reference expenses or work together on expenses, that happened all over the place.
Wow. Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, there's, especially the larger you get, I've seen that too in companies. I'm like,
Yeah.
you're spending money on what? I mean, I've worked for large companies,
Yeah.
and you're like, and they are just flushing tens of thousands of dollars down the toilet.
Absolutely. Again, because a lot of it is in larger companies, if there does become an expense issue, their knee-jerk reaction is just lay people off. So, sometimes I'll hear from organizations like, yeah, we need to cut expenses, but our indirect expenses, that's the least of our problems. Our biggest line items are people and benefits. And I'll say, and that's exactly why you should review your indirect costs, because you haven't done it in probably 20 years. And they've grown and grown and grown, and you've ignored them.
Yeah. No, and yeah, because it seems like it can't be that big, but I mean, if you have a 30% savings on some of these line items, that's a few people, and it's hard to replace some of these people. And as we've seen in the fine, you have good people that you have to get rid of because it's expensive, or good vendors.
Yeah.
And that's one. I think that's a big thing too. Is like if it's a marketing agency or some sort of consultant that does this type of help or does this type of thing, and they're a line item, it's a great resource to be bringing to people. That's why I have it here. I want my clients to be looking and going, hey, here's some ways to save some money.
Yeah.
So you can spend more money on marketing, or just be happier in your business.
Yeah.
So take some more money home, have a vacation. This has been fantastic. So Robyn, tell us, the process is, tell us a little about the process of working with you.
Yeah. So the first thing I like to do before I ask anyone to sign any contracts, before we enter a formal contractual relationship, I'll have people send me the last 12 months of their AP so that I can look through the vendors and say, okay, here's the categories we're going to focus on, so that I know they meet certain minimums. I have a pretty good idea, like, okay, I recognize these vendor names. And then from there, I'll say, okay, here's the 3 or 4 areas. We'll get, the signed service agreement. And then we start right in with the data that we need, the data gathering. And that's where those online accesses become so important, is, again, give us that online access, and then we're good to go. We're going to start pulling data, compiling things up ourselves, and then just coming back to the client once we've looked at all the information and kind of stripped off as much data as we can. It just makes things go so much faster. And again, it makes the lift on the other side really, really easy. So we do that. We then package it up and send it to the analysts in Toronto, and they start putting together what we call the value reports, which is, they're out there negotiating with vendors, negotiating with incumbents. We want to keep people with their incumbent vendor just at a better rate. So we always go to the incumbent first, then we go to a couple other vendors that are in our database. If the incumbent is not the best option, we circle back with them. We say, hey, Mr. Incumbent, we've got other opportunities for Ian's company. And so if you want to keep his business, you better sharpen your pencil. And so that's how we can get people to stay with the incumbent 80% of the time.
Love that. I love that. Well, that's fantastic. So we'll put best way to connect with you is on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. I'm on and off it all day long.
Okay, so we'll put a link to your LinkedIn in the show notes.
Perfect.
It's Robyn Bowles. And Robyn, where else are you active online? Where else do you like to have fun on social media?
Honestly, fun in social media, I don't often find the same sentence. LinkedIn really is the primary one. Instagram a little bit, but it's primarily LinkedIn, and various videos out on YouTube, podcasts, webinars, and stuff.
Awesome. We'll put link to your LinkedIn in the show notes. It's worth just simply giving her a message, say you saw her on here, and there's no cost to talking to you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's great. I even have some canned communications that I put together with a friend in marketing, that if you are pitching a client and you're hearing, would love to do this, just don't have the money, I have an email that is already prepared that you could send to that client or prospect and say, hey, I understand. That's why I've partnered with Robyn to help you find the money to engage my services.
Fantastic. So, folks, if you're looking for ways to find budget for your clients, give Robyn a call as well. Robyn has been fantastic. Thanks so much for being on the Garlic Marketing Show.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
And thank you all for taking Robyn and I on your journey, making us part of your story. This has been Ian Garlic and the Garlic Marketing Show.